Hello, this is Dr. Katka Novakova here. I promised you our Medical Mondays a little bit early today as it's a beautiful, powerful day. So we'll focus on going more within this evening during our sunset. So the sun is up and is welcoming a new day, Monday the 21st of June. My goodness, time flies. Let's talk about the kidneys and the adrenal glands. So the adrenal glands are two tiny triangular shaped glands that we are very familiar with in our world that are sitting on top of our kidneys. There's a lot that from the naturopathic standpoint, medicine-wise, that we have for the adrenal glands, and I'll share with you some. There is not as many supportive supplements and medicines that we have for our kidneys, unfortunately. Kidneys in Chinese medicine are very important. They're the seat of Jing. Jing is our life force. It's our vital force. It literally sits within the energy of the kidneys. What that means is there's something called the yin deficiency. It's a deficiency of our vital force where our kidneys tend to be depleted. Because we don't look at kidneys much, we only in traditional medicine, we only look at them with a high blood pressure. We kind of automatically focus on the kidneys, and there's medications that alter the kidney function that help to bring our blood pressure, which are not, there's one supposed to be, like you've probably heard of lisinopril, it's supposed to be protective to the kidneys, and so it's given to patients with kidney conditions as a protective medication. I have not really seen it to be protective per se. They're still very much our kidneys are still very much being tasked. This world as we're living it is somewhat of a burden on our kidneys. And one of them is on the physical, how we are putting so many processed foods for the most part, not everybody, but there's a lot of salt, a lot of processed food. And remember, there's salt and then there's salt. There's the sodium chloride salt that's in all of the processed food. Is a tough one on our kidneys. It's really is driving the internal workings of the kidneys quite a bit. The fact that we're really being pushed to do and to perform and come from the place of our mind is very much depleting to our kidney energy from the Chinese standpoint, from the Chinese medicine standpoint. And oftentimes there's more doing and being awake than the sleeping, resting. So we don't replenish, we don't go in and replenish our vital force. And then on the mental emotional sphere, we actually have the energy of fear. And I'm gonna bring the sun in for a little bit because the sun is the opposite of that. From our worldly view, when we look at the media, when we look at everything that is going on, everything that has happened over the year and a half, it's always nice to be reminded of the constant, the sun, the moon, summer, spring. Just like yesterday, we have entered summer solstice. The summer is another, when seasons change, there's a change for our bodies. In the summer, again, in the heat, the kidneys are tasked a little bit more. So the idea of the mental emotional umbrella of fear and worry, we don't hear about that in medicine, trust me. Like I've spent 6 years in traditional medical school, none of that is mentioned anywhere, understandably. In naturopathic medical school is similar. There's the focusing on the organs and not as much focusing on the spiritual and the mental emotional aspect. The kidneys do get depleted with the worry and the fear that whether consciously or unconsciously presented with daily. So what can we do to support our kidneys? So we're told to drink a lot of water. Let's remember that the water that we're drinking, for the most part, unless we do something with it, whether we buy it in a bottle or whether we do our own reverse osmosis, that water is depleted of nutrients. So it's empty water. It's harder for that water to go inside the cells and to really replenish and rehydrate us. So a lot of it has to be literally flushed through our kidneys. Like, I don't know if you notice when you keep drinking and you keep having to go to the bathroom. And then on the other hand, we have this caffeine. That caffeine literally takes the kidneys and it tells them to open up. So the kidneys are meant to reserve water, right? So they flush the unwanted and then they reabsorb the water. So they preserve the water. With caffeine, this function is altered. So the kidneys are meant to open up and just flush the water out. So remember, caffeine really flushes more water through. So we slow that down a little bit and bring more water on board, and we put some goodies in the water. I really like, I'm just gonna see it backwards unfortunately, but at least you get the visual. I really like this medicine called cell food. Food for the cells. You can get this anywhere. Amazon, Whole Foods, Sprouts. Just a few drops in every, it tastes a little bit lemony, so we just make sure we really like the taste. If it's too salty or too lemony, then we slow down or we put more water. So we mix it just easily for ourselves to really enjoy it. The other thing that we can especially now, because I believe the lemons, well, no, the lemons are already past its prime, but we can still get fresh lemons in the store, preferably organic. First thing in the morning, the easiest thing to do is to have a little bit of lemon in our water. In the summer, it's harder to do warm water with lemon, so we just do regular temperature water, but let's put some lemon in there. It helps our digestive tract and it jumpstarts our digestion. And it supports the kidneys with the water. It's really beautiful. That's why we do the warm water for the digestion. But the lemon is really nice. The cell food is really nice. Remember, I like the Mountain Valley, the Mountain Valley spring water. It has naturally occurring minerals in it. Any spring water will have that. And it tends to be alkaline in the pH. And then there are some other packets. Some of us use Emergency or the Power Pack from the same company, Trace Mineral Research, especially in the summer. It has very little sugar and it supports the kidneys in a way because it has other electrolytes. Let me take a sip of water. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of water with some cell food in it. The idea with other drinks like Gatorade, our children, I see them drinking Gatorade so much. That is not conducive for health as much. It has so many dyes, and even if the sugar is replaced by something else, it's usually replaced by, excuse me, by something unnatural. So we skip the Gatorades and we make that for children with those little packets. It's called Power Pack from Trace Mineral Research. Or we blend them little, like we put a cucumber and a watermelon in our blender with lots of water. And we can put a little banana to sweeten it. It's delicious. It's delicious. And if your kids don't see it, just put a little bit of green powder in there. And we have a nice, super smoothie that actually hydrates us. So more water, less of the other goodies. Every time we put protein powder in our smoothie, we're using the water to go with the protein, so it's not really hydrating. But when we put just few other ingredients, the water allows in there actually is left for us to hydrate. So for the kidneys, if there are any issues, I have seen so many patients with decreased kidney function. This medicine, I'm going to make a little note. It's called HKI, homeopathic kidney drops. Those are really good. 10 drops 3 times a day. They just rebuild and replenish the kidneys. And for a long-term kidney support, I have found this medicine. It's called Rentone. So I just wanted to add those few things to the kidneys, because we have talked about kidney function and the GFR and how to look for how our GFR, kidney function, has to be showing us an exact number. We talked about that. Let's not just settle with over 60. We absolutely need to have a number, because we're going to be in the 90s and over 90s. We don't just want to have over 60, because we can literally bring the kidney function up by putting goodies in the water, especially the cell food. That's the first step. Then if needed, we use a homeopathic reset drops for our kidneys. And then long term, if needed, we use medicine that has herbs in it that literally strengthens the kidneys and the kidney function. So yes, kidneys can be rebuilt, and it has to be a little bit of work put in place. And remember, every time we can bring love in over fear, it does support the deeper energetic structure of our kidneys. So that one is always beautiful to add. For the adrenal glands, my goodness, you must have heard, if you went to a naturopathic doctor, or even online now, we hear about adrenal deficiency. And I had patients come in and they said, I was told my adrenals are shot. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not a good phrase to use at all when it comes to the power of words in our mind. So the idea that we have kind of been presented with is that our adrenal glands get depleted with stress. And that tends to be the case as they work over time. And then also we really super caffeinate and push there's a lot of foods that actually push our adrenal glands as well. They have stimulating effects, a lot of sugars, and because the adrenal glands have the epinephrine and norepinephrine. They're the fast stress reacting hormones, and then the cortisol is the long term. And you have heard that in our world we are under a chronic stress of doing, worrying, you name it, it's chronic stress. Or if we have a health issue, it's a chronic stress that the adrenals are basically working overtime. The two organs that do go hand in hand with adrenals is the pancreas, which we'll speak about next, and is the thyroid gland. So pancreas gets also depleted with stress, and then secondarily, after adrenal glands get depleted, the thyroid tends to be taking the brunt. So every time we're healing thyroid and supporting thyroid, we always need to remember adrenal glands are back on top of the kidneys to support the adrenal glands as well. So there's many ways to support the adrenals. The biggest one, so if you go to a naturopathic doctor, the notion is to bring in supplements that can rebuild the adrenal glands. So instead of, the highest, if somebody is absolutely depleted, there's actual low dose hydrocortisone that's being given that can support and take people out of a profound depletion. Hopefully we never have to get there. That one should be very temporarily. Underneath that are medicines called glandulars, something like this. You've probably seen them, heard them. It's called adrenal complex, different kinds of adrenal complexes. Those have the adrenal gland from, bovine and porcine. That gland brings in literally a substance that rebuilds the adrenals. So that one is also potentially helpful at a deeper depletion. Again, it's not something to do long term because it tends to be stimulating as well. Underneath that, that was birds. Did you hear that? Underneath that are herbs. So as we're going deeper, something like, adrenal pH balance, those are all organic herbs that literally help to support the adrenal glands. I really like holy basil. You heard me speak about holy basil. It's my favorite herb. It's such calming and supportive, and it's a gentle plant in the herbal world. Then rhodiola is another one. Eleutherococcus you might have heard of. Then there's a ginseng as well. That one is a little bit more stimulating, so it's nicer to go with the gentler ones. And then underneath that, I don't have those on me, but there's small drops like this. They're just called HAD, homeopathic adrenal, that tend to stimulate the receptors on the adrenal gland. Sometimes it's simply waking up the receptors and reconnecting the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. That one tends to get kind of disconnected and shut down a little bit, especially after a big emotional event, after birth. So oftentimes I do at the beginning reawakening that the receptors and the reconnection, and then we can support the adrenal glands with some herbs. Remember, there is a beautiful, if you're making smoothie in the morning, maca powder is very well known now, MACA, organic maca powder. We can get that anywhere now. It's nice to put anywhere from teaspoon to a tablespoon to our smoothie on a daily basis. It's really, really helpful. Ashwagandha is another plant that comes either in a herbal formula like this, or it is a powder, which doesn't taste as good, so we just put a little bit less. But maca is an easy one, tastes great, and is very safe even for children. So we just mix it in with their little smoothie for the day, and there we have it. So there's quite a few things that we can do. The big one is remembering when we have some time where we don't have to push ourselves, to really go less on the stimulants, which would be anything caffeinated when it's green tea. Remember all the drinks, if they're being drunk, which most of us don't do anymore, the Sprite and all that has some stimulative effect with the sugars. So we just back down of the coffee and we do a little bit more time resting. That ultimately is the most healing thing we can do for our kidneys and adrenal. So if we have some time where we can do a little bit more of a cleansing food, spending a little bit more time on ourselves, it's always good to do at least 2-3 times a year. Take a little bit of time to go within, emotionally, spiritually, and with what's going into our organism as far as foods and supportive plants and herbs. It's nice to go higher on the support and rest and a little bit lower on the stimulants. That really helps to rebuild our endocrine system as a whole, and especially the adrenals and the kidneys and the nervous system, and you name it. So those are a few things that we can do. Just remember the easiest one: water with some minerals, and then maybe some maca on a daily smoothie. Would be nice. That maca powder, actually, in Peru, where the maca comes from, oftentimes they just put a big tablespoon in with a little bit of honey, sometimes lemon, and they drink it first thing in the morning. That is their coffee, really. So they have, instead of stimulants, they actually have supportive herb coming in first thing in the morning. So maybe we can adopt that, even if it's in our smoothie. And it tastes great, and kids will love it. And then remember, when we exercise, which is a great thing to do today, if we are really depleted and we go exercise and we push ourselves, if we don't feel more vital after working out and running, if we're feeling exhausted, then at that point we are pushing our adrenal glands past the point of it being beneficial. So as much as exercise is beneficial for us, and we're told we need to exercise, if there's somebody who is at the level of depletion where exercise makes them more tired, that's time to pause and go replenish first before pushing the exercise further. At that point, I would do more yoga and stretching and breathing. Remember, breath work is very supportive to our being, and do some waking up and grounding of our adrenal glands before going and work out further. So that was just a great reminder. Thank you for that. Okay, everybody, that's it for today, for our Medical Monday, and I will see you in the evening for a beautiful reflection of the day and second part of June, and see what happens after that. So we'll see the sun shortly. You take care, and thank you for listening. And remember, if you like what we share, just subscribe, share it with your friends, come on Facebook, come on YouTube. I would love that. All right, take care. Bye.